Most jó. Most érzem. Oké. 1, 2, 3, próba. Jó, így. Kikapcsoljuk.
És majd a kolléga kapcsolja, most kikapcsolta, és majd akkor fogja bekapcsolni, akkor fölmegy beszélni.
Welcome back from lunch, everyone. Hope you had some good fish or chicken or chocolate cake. Hope you all liked it. We're going to kick off right away. It's 1:20. Thank you all for getting back on time. It's awesome. It means that Eva here gets a lot of time to talk and you get a lot of time to ask questions. Eva is going to talk about nonviolent communications. She has studied with the founder of Nonviolent Communication, has been teaching for 15 years. She's got 45 minutes, I think.
1.5 hours.
1.5 hours. Oh my God, 1.5 hours to teach you about it. So she's going to try to compress 15 years of learning into 1.5 hours. Hope you enjoy it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh. I'm used to have maximum 30 people, so part of me is very happy for this number. Part of me is really scared. And I'd like to start with some gossiping. I asked one of the ladies who is serving us some drinks, which kind of group are we? And she told me, this is one of the greatest one. Everyone was so kind with me so far. So I just would like to reassure you, I don't think you are violent, but I assume you are educated enough to know whatever given field you are an expert, the more you know how much you still don't know. You know, it's like I am studying communication for 20 years, and the only thing I realize, I don't know this and this and this and that. So I don't think I want you to learn about nonviolent communication because you are so violent, but because I hope you want to improve your communication skills. Why? When I first time went to this training, it was more like, okay, nothing else to do, let's see what this guy has to say. And I heard 2 ideas, what are still my leading stars. And the first time in my life, I tried to use this big thing. So the first idea I heard is the only reward of being a good girl or a good boy is depression. My mother educated me, be a nice, kind girl, because then people will love me. And I really tried my best. And after a while, I just exploded. You know, when you swallow so many things and you can't do it anymore, and usually it was the worst moment of my life when I said, no, it was enough, and I was rude and aggressive. And then I started to think, maybe my mother was right, and then I should be more kind and more polite, la la la. And then this guy came, and then he tried to convince us most people's heart dies at age 24, but their body is buried at only 74, or something like that. And I could really, really resonate with that at that time. And I felt kind of relieved. Okay, now I know I am depressed. And what's next? I got some suggestion. If something happens and you don't like, speak up without being critical. With my personality, to send anyone to anywhere is not a big challenge. I don't have to go for weekend trainings to tell my opinion. The only problem is the cleaning work after it is not much fun. You know, to destroy something is not a big deal for many of us, but to build something is much more difficult. So sometimes people ask me, how many trainings do I have to go so this nonviolent communication just happens to me without any effort? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm hoping I have another life. But what I can promise you, or what I have been able to achieve so far, is in my most important connections, I am able to consciously cultivate the distance, mean closeness or more distance, so to create the distance that suits that connection. And please raise your hand if you have a pretty clear guess which kind of conflicts you are likely to face at Christmas time. Okay, it's hard to see, but I see quite a few hands. Please raise your hand if you have quite a clear guess which kind of conflicts are you likely to face on Monday when you go back to your job. Again, I see quite a few hands. So my most important conflicts are not the one that happens once in my life. My most important conflicts that keep repeating themselves. You know, I know what's more likely to happen with that person. And if I am able to change those situations and I'm able to create more peace in my most important conflicts or most important connections, then it's already a great improvement in the quality of my life. So I cannot promise you, especially not after this 1.5 hours, you will have only nonviolent thoughts. But I hope I can give you some ideas how to go one step every day to this direction and to create much more fulfilling connections. Believe me, British scientists proved each mobile phone can be put on silence. Hopefully in this group, no one will raise their hand, oh, I don't know how to do it, I want it, but I don't know. So, how are you with the idea to make an agreement? If your phone or any of your gadget gives any noise, oh, sorry, I forgot this. So if your phone or any of your thing gives any noise while we are together, you bring a nice cake for our next meeting. Please raise your hand if you have the sense we agreed. You will bring a cake for the next meeting if anything will give any noise. Thank you very much. Please raise your hand if you believe just because I asked you, that doesn't mean you committed yourself. Okay, so especially if I have some power, if I have more power in the relationship than you are, I am the parent, I am the teacher, or I am the boss, or in this case, I don't think I have more power than you do. You know, if I say something really stupid, by the time I leave this building, half of the world will know how stupidity I said. So I'm not more powerful than you, but I love cake. I love homemade cake. especially with lots of chocolate, and I especially love it when you make it and not me. So when I have more power, or when I have a lot of excitement to make something to happen, I am more likely to hear what I want to hear and not what the other person wants to tell me. So my favorite suggestion, did we agree or did we speak about it? Just because with great excitement I told you how much I would love to have that cake, and you didn't tell me, no way, it doesn't mean you agreed. If you would like to reduce the number of your conflicts, if you put into practice to check with your partner if you agreed or did you just speak about it. I know there are some exceptions. If you ask your beloved 4-year-old, please promise to me you will never hit again your younger sister. That 4-year-old is not really able to guess what does it mean, never hit again her younger sister. But when you speak with your colleagues, and if there is an atmosphere of honesty, then you are more likely to receive an honest answer. What you can do, you can at least ask for it. I got so much time because I promised to the organizers this program will be interactive, and before we start our work together, I would like us to come for some further agreements. I'm really committed to keep these agreements, what I recommend you to keep it while we are together. I'm really committed to keep them in my everyday life, and I found them extremely helpful. So first of all, I will not ask you to promise anything, but I will ask if you have the intention to keep what I will ask you. Once I heard a Buddhist teacher who said, before a person reaches the level of the bodhisattva's awareness, they are not really able to keep their promises. And then I asked, what's that bodhisattva something? Which training do they offer it? And the guy said, Jesus and Buddha was a bodhisattva. Good. For sure, I am not there yet. So I kind of made an agreement with the school director. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, show up in West Premier's school. I cannot promise for sure to be there, since I don't know when I am going to die. And what if I die tonight? You may think it's unrealistic, but that's the only thing for sure will happen with us. What I can tell to the school director, I have a very strong intention and a super strong commitment to do my best to show up on time. But I cannot promise for sure. So I will not ask you to promise me things, but I ask if you have the intention to speak in first person singular. You know, once a person told me, we are so used to generalizing. And then I asked, who is the we? You know, it's so easy to fall into this trap. And I would love you to take good care of yourself. In my belief, when I was born, I was given a gift in a form of life. It doesn't matter what do I believe in. Have I received this gift from God, from my parents, or Michael Jackson? Someone gave me this gift. In my understanding, it's not just a possibility to use this life, since no one can influence my own life more than I do. It means to me I am the person who is the most responsible for my quality of my life, or I am the person who is the most responsible for my own life. And the best care I take of myself, the more I can serve my family and society as well. I have the impression we speak a lot about how much exercise to do, what to eat, what not to eat. I'm personally fed up with it. I just eat whatever feels okay in that very moment. And if you are sitting here, probably you have spent enough time in school to know if you stop using your brain, that will not influence well your mind. But what we don't speak enough for my standard is how incredibly important to take good care of my soul or my heart. Conflicts are not coming to my life just by coincidence. Whenever I end up in a conflict, for me, it's a great sign I didn't take the best care of my own soul. So while we are together, I would love you to take good care of yourself on a physical or a mental and on an emotional level, of course, given the circumstances. The next thing I would love you to take under consideration is please be very careful with your advice. Let's imagine yesterday you spoke with me. The only thing I could speak about how excited, tense, nervous I am with the tomorrow presentation. And let's imagine you told me, oh, come on, you didn't do anything else the last 15 years, just speak about the same thing. You should be bored by now and not being worried of how you can make a presentation. Maybe you would have said this in order to encourage me. But the only thing I have heard is, you don't care about my problem. I know I still have some prejudice, but now I would love all the men to pay double attention. Sorry. An emotional-based problem can be dealt on an emotional level. A rational problem can be dealt on a rational level. You know, dear old gentlemen, when I earn my living by listening to women, how much they would love to connect on a deeper level with their partners. And most of them are men. So I'm okay if you don't change. But still, because I am a woman as well, and I enjoy more men's company with whom I can connect not only on the rational, but on an emotional level as well. You may ask, how can you realize that problem is emotional or rational based? Very simple. You say your first clear rational suggestion, and it seems like you speak with an idiot. That is a great sign that person is not, great chance that person is not an idiot. Maybe that problem is not rational, but it comes from emotions. And I'm almost sure none of the emotional-based problems have been solved on a rational level. So I would love you to be very, very careful with your advice when someone speaks about emotions. I hope I don't need to explain criticism is not likely to create closeness. Criticism is more likely to create distance in a moment when we don't want it. So I just want to wish I don't need to explain this, so I move on. The next thing is it's okay to make mistakes. So far, we heard it more than once on this conference. There are no such a thing as mistakes, but only learning possibilities. How this comes to conflict? Until I'm convinced I am innocent and we have a conflict because of you, I will not learn anything. From the moment I don't blame myself, I don't blame the other person, just purely try to understand how I contributed to that situation. The more clearly I can define it, the more I can change. So I would love you to give yourself permission to make mistakes, because the next step is I would love each of us to find a conflict situation that you would like to make some changes. So let's see, now I can turn this off, or I was promised the camera will show me soon. So hopefully you found the paper on your chair, what I would like us to use. Usually I don't use any slide, I just give everyone my little paper, hoping that maybe you take it home and maybe you will use it some other time. In my understanding, the purpose of nonviolent communication is to create and maintain the quality of connection where everyone's needs are met. I wasn't courageous enough to write based on joyful giving, because that might be a little too much for some people. Each connection is like a fire. If I don't feed it, it will die out. There is no such a thing, I have a good marriage. The only thing that matters, today we have a closeness that I appreciate, or today we don't have it. And if I believe I have a good marriage and I don't put something in it every day, I don't nurture that connection, sooner or later it will die out. And it's true with each connection, but each connection has a different wish for fuel, sometimes more, sometimes less. You know, it's different amount of attention you give to a 2-year-old child or a 32-year-old child. And if your mother didn't make this change, then probably by the age 32, you don't have such a good, close connection with your mother. So to create and maintain the quality of connection where everyone's needs are met or fulfilled. If I care only about my well-being, I will be very lonely. If I care only about others' well-being, probably I will be very depressed sooner or later. I can use this process only if I really would like to take good care of myself and others as well. In my grandmother's time, relationships were written in stones. The position determined who is right, who is wrong. You know, the teacher was always right, the boss was always right, and usually the father was right as well, or the oldest man in the family. These days, we cannot live with this. Even if you manage to not to waste your time and energy with the urgent but not important things, you focus on the projects that are really important for you, even if it's not urgent. You manifest your greatest dreams. You seem like one of the most successful person in life. You manage to make your success, but no one to celebrate with. My favorite way to measure if I have the necessary 3-4 connections in my life is asking myself, who do I trust they will be happy to share my joy when I reached some success? If you don't have 3-4 such people, then I doubt if you can live a really happy and satisfying life, regardless how much success you have achieved. I'm not saying only human connection that matters in life, but I'm saying if you don't have a supportive network of people, that can be 3-4 people, I recommend you more than one. So if you don't have this number of people, I doubt if you can really, really enjoy life. And it's not just a good luck to have this supportive team, but it usually means a lot of work for many, many years in order to cultivate these connections. And especially in these connections, in your most important connections, it's very, very important if you want to keep your marriage, if you want to keep your job, especially if you would like to experience some progress in your job. These days, it's very, very important to be able to stand up for yourself and to pay attention to the other person's well-being as well. When you always submit, I'm convinced you leave the other person lonely. I'd like to share with you one of my great failures. Maybe you can learn from it. I spoke with a friend of mine, and she explained to me, for 20 years, I really did everything for serving my husband, and now I have to realize this relationship doesn't work, and we are about to divorce. It was not empathic at all, my reaction. It was honest. So I told her, so your poor husband for 20 years didn't have a real partner, but a servant. This is a very cruel sentence for a woman who is mourning one of her biggest sadness and loss in life. I sensed it in the very moment when I said it. But I still believe in the message behind it. When I always just obey to another person, I leave the other person lonely. Or I leave the other person alone. If they are lonely or not, that's a different issue. Recently, I spoke with a gentleman who was very much interested in nonviolent communication. He was originally from Belgium, but worked in Holland for many years, and then he came to Budapest to work. And I asked him, what's the difference between the Dutch and the Hungarian colleagues? And he didn't hesitate to think, you know, my problem in Hungary, my colleagues are so much wanting to avoid conflicts, so they don't tell me on time what problems they are facing, and usually by the time I get the information, it's a little too late, or it's a little late. So I just want to sell you the idea how incredibly important to stand up for myself. And it's equally important to pay attention to the other person as well. So if you found a person in your life whose well-being is as important to you as your own, I hope everyone found such person, at least one person. Please don't give me an example about traffic. I'm really committed to practice this. Once I was parking somewhere, running, being a little bit late for my training, and someone parked his car in a way I couldn't come out. That was a moment when I was already well experienced in NVC, but I had no intention to care about his well-being. The only thing I wanted, get out of here so I can go on my own way. So please find a situation when someone, please find a person when someone's well-being is as important for you than your own. This is the situation this process can really work well. So by now, I hope you have this person, and I encourage you to come with me for a journey, and we will explore what was your observation, how do you feel at this moment, which of your needs were touched in that situation, and what would be your request. So invite you for a little bit of journey of finding a specific situation when this important person did something and you didn't like. I'd like to tell you an example as well. In 1996, when I started to go to workshops, the most frequent topic was, my 12-year-old child is not willing to take out the garbage twice a week, no matter how many times we agreed. Maybe some of you were 12-year-old those days. And these days, no parents are complaining about garbage. I came to the conclusion the computers solved the garbage problem. Because the people who come to my workshop, at least 60–70% of them are concerned how many hours of their children are sitting in front of the screen. It's, I don't know what happens with the garbage, but very rarely when a parent is concerned about that. So, and you know, sometimes people are concerned how much their husband or wife are sitting in front of the screen, but at least that time they have less concern when the person become brain dead. So let me tell you an example. Imagine I have a 12-year-old at home, and I went for this workshop, and I try out how I could express myself practicing this nonviolent communication. You know, I'm really desperate because I tried a million things and none of it worked. I start with my observation. My dear son or daughter, it seems to me you are sitting in front of that computer at least for 3 hours without moving. That was a pure observation. I hope no one heard any criticism from it. The next step is I try to name my feeling. I'm really concerned, worried, and then I add my need. You know, because I really care for each of our health, and I really care for our family connections. So then I finish with a doable present request. So my dear child, how are you with the idea to come with me and have a walk with the dog? So please remember, when you were 12-year-old and one of your parents would have come to you, you were sitting in front of your computer for 3 hours, being very busy with something. What would be your real honest answer to your parent? So, please shout louder. Yes, oh, come on. Can you give me your mother's phone number? I would like to check with her. Thank you. Just 5 minutes, or I just finished this thing, and you forget to tell this is a never finishing game. Thank you. What else? Just a moment. I want more hours. Oh, sorry. Yeah, oh, okay. My favorite one is... Yes, you have a dog. The question was, do we have a dog? Okay, when you are busy with your screen. My favorite answer is, with you. Just, so, no matter what answer I received, instead of reacting the way I usually react, I just try to guess the other person's feelings and needs. When you tell me, my dear son, please leave me alone, are you frustrated because you would like to choose freely what you do in your free time? When you tell me, with you, you are concerned and you would like to be understood, I am not a company for you, you wish to show up. No matter what the other person reacted, before you react, I would love you to guess the other person's possible feelings and needs. Now, I showed you the process. I would love you to give a little bit of try. So far, I asked you to find a person whom well-being is as important for you than your own. And please find a specific situation when this person did something and you didn't like. And I am not so used to work with so much high-tech people, but in my understanding, if you write your observation, hopefully I will see it on the screen. But if you just tell me the observation, we have some microphones as well. So Bogi and someone else may offer you a microphone. Please imagine I am this person. I can be your boss, your colleague, your neighbor if you are equally interested of his well-being than yours. Or I can be one of your family members, and I asked you, what did I do you didn't like me to do, but please tell it to me in a form I don't hear any criticism, no judgment, no analysis, and no assumption. One of my favorite sorry, I work a lot with parents, so my favorite example, and it's more funny, comes from families. So let's imagine I hear from my friend, I went home at 5:30 in the evening, and I entered the door, and I have seen my 10-year-old child didn't even start his homework. What is your guess? What might have been my observation? No guess? Maybe I wasn't clear, or your child is not 10 yet. Usually I hear the guess, I have seen the school bag in the hall without being opened. You know, I entered the door, I see my child's bag, I came to the conclusion he didn't start to do his homework yet. You know, I have seen one fact and I made a huge assumption. Recently I heard from a colleague of mine, I have sold 20 days of training. And I said, what happened? You know, I went to this big company and I spoke with the person at the HR, and she was extremely excited about nonviolent communication. Did you sign the contract? Not yet, but she promised. You sense the difference? Something happened, and then I make a huge assumption. Someone called me and said, you know, Yoshi invited me for dinner. I hope you will come to our wedding. You are laughing now, but probably you are one of those who are not able to see your own blind spot yet. These were just a little minor, for us funny, if we are involved, it's very painful situations when we mix the facts with my interpretation. Krishnamurti, Indian philosopher, said, the highest form of human intelligence is the ability to separate my observation from my evaluation. The more involved I am emotionally, the less likely I am able to do it. So after this, I wonder if anyone is willing to tell me an observation, what the other person did and you didn't like, in maximum 2 sentences. I don't want to hear the whole story. I would love to hear some facts. What did you observe? What did you see? Or what did you hear and you didn't like? And in my best understanding, you can write that down as well, and hopefully we will see it. In Slido, yeah, sorry. So anyone is courageous enough to, I guarantee the more you put in it, the more you will learn. Oh. These are not the questions yet. I would like to hear, so I'm very grateful for... Last one. My son didn't put his shoes on after asking 3 times. He was still playing music. Please raise your hand if your mother would have told this to you and you have heard it as a criticism. So if you heard this sentence and you heard it as a criticism, I see quite a lot of hands on the air. How would you say this without being critical? You know, it's very easy to hear the criticism from other people and to notice it. But it's much more difficult to be able to express myself without criticism. So my son didn't put his shoes on after asking 3 times. What did you observe? I have another favorite sentence. The camera is not able to see my expectations. You know, my son didn't put his shoes. I see my son's shoes on the floor, and I have asked him 3 times to put it wherever. And still playing music. The still is the critical part. I hope after this you have a total different understanding when am I violent and when am I non-violent. Because if all these still and again and always, if we notice all these little words, they create distance. The other person is very likely to hear it as a criticism. You didn't find Wi-Fi in the mountains. Yeah, no one is providing Wi-Fi there. Okay, when you ask me a question and then start talking before I finished my sentence. I don't know who wrote this, and I wonder if you have been participated on any workshop where you got some encouragement how to differentiate your evaluation and the facts, but I very much liked it. My daughter hardly find any clothes we prepare good enough to wear. I heard some, if I am your daughter, I heard some criticism it. What did you hear from me as your daughter? You came to the conclusion you didn't find. So you are hearing from me the 5th times, no, I don't want to wear that. That might be quite frustrating. I see you giving me advice why I am cooking dinner. For me, the advice is, you know, it's kind of, I hear from you, I shouldn't put so much salt in it again. She didn't text back, though she hated me. She didn't text back. Once a gentleman signed up to my program by phone and not the internet, which gives me extra work. I have to type his name. And he worked for a big IT company. He had a high position, and I asked him, how come you didn't send me an email? And his answer was, because if someone I knows how many emails are lost. I believed him. And I cannot say she didn't send. What I can say, I didn't receive a text message from him or from her. So this was the encouragement to separate our evaluation, criticism from the facts. The more you can do it, the less frustration you will have in life. That's my experience. Oh my God, we are running out of time. Next step is, I would love you to open this paper. And before I worked with high school students, I used to say, please find the feeling word below the blue line. And after working in high school, I've learned, please find the feeling word between the blue and the red line. Do you sense the difference? This is the art of communication. So please recall your observation. What you wrote in your imagination or in fact for observation, please find the feeling. How do you feel right now between the blue and the red line? And I would love to hear or to read some of the feelings. I still remember to the observation of the mother whose child didn't want to put the shoes to the right place. So I would love to hear, how do you feel right now? Disappointed? Thank you. Helpless? Oh, maybe a practicing father. You know something. You know, the first time you might be disappointed, and the 5th time you might be a little bit of helpless, and then it goes on and on. Why am I so picky asking you to choose feelings only from my list? I wish it would be grammatically incorrect to say, I feel you are betraying me. I feel you are stupid and unresponsible. Unfortunately, we are so used to analyzing people under the name of feelings. In my understanding, my feeling is only about me. Now we arrived to the most important part of our time together. How are you with the idea I am responsible for what I can control? Do you agree with me? I'm responsible for what I can control. If not, then I would love to hear what do you think you are responsible and you cannot control. There was only one situation. I was with university students, and they had a camp, and I had an introduction of nonviolent communication between 8 and 9:30 in the evening, and with the speed of light, they said, sorry for the example, if I vomit through the corridor, I cannot control, but it's my responsibility. Yes, I agree. With some practice, you can learn how much you can drink, and the cleaning will be the easiest. So if we agree, I am responsible for what I can control, what's your guess, or what do you think, what you can control in this universe? The right answer is my husband or my wife, but okay, so what can you control? Yourself? You can control what you believe, thank you. Anything else you can control? What you say? Actions, in my understanding, those are my favorite words. I can control my intention. I can control my thoughts, my conscious words and actions. So I would like to take responsibility for my intention, thoughts, my conscious words and actions. And I don't want to be responsible for how you take it. But if you agree with me, you are in a little bit of trap. Because from now on, it's not okay if you say, I am so disappointed because you didn't put your shoes to the right place. Because in this way, you blame the other person for your feelings, because even if you cannot control your feelings, but you blame the other person being responsible for your feeling. Do you sense why is it contradicting? We agreed I can control my intention, my thoughts, my words, and my actions. No one said, thanks God, I can control my feelings. I believe I can change my words, my thoughts, and if I change my thoughts, that influencing my feelings often, not all the time. So where did we learn to blame the other person for my feelings? Please raise your hand if you never heard the following sentence. If you eat one more bite, Daddy and Mommy will be so happy. Before I've learned how to walk and talk, I went through a brainwashing. Me, little Eva, is responsible for half of the village happiness. If I behave well, my mommy is happy. This is an international game. I am responsible for my loved one happiness. And the other side of the coin, I can blame my parents for a lifetime. If you would have been a better parent, I would be different. So no one is taking responsibility for our own feelings. We are blaming the others. It's an international game. If you would like to step out of emotional slavery, the first step I recommend you to do, to start to take responsibility for your own feelings. Stop blaming others for your feelings. Now we are left with the question, where can I search for the root of my feelings? I still have these feelings. There must be something from where they are coming from. If you open this magic paper, under the red line, you find the list of needs. I'm convinced I'm never feeling this or that because of the other person did something or didn't do something. I always have a feeling because one of my needs was stimulated. And now, please choose a need from that list. Which of your need was touched in that given situation? You chose to write down the observation. So when you are a parent and your child leaves his shoes on the wrong place, which of your need was met or touched, if you prefer that word? Comfort? It's much easier if there is order. If I am your partner and I arrived home a little bit too late, which of your needs were touched? A little bit later than you hoped. Cooperation? Support? Please say it a little louder. Dignity? Be careful if your dignity depends on my behavior, but possible. If I am your colleague and I didn't give you the report I promised on time, I didn't give you the report on time, what I promised, which of your need is met? Cooperation? Trust. So you lost your trust in our cooperation. Again, please. Mutual respect. Harmony. Contribution. Safety. Support. I very much like this support because if you say, you know, I didn't find this report in my inbox, I'm disappointed and I wish for support, it's less likely the other person will hear it as a criticism than if you say, because mutual respect is very important for me. The last step in this process, I would like us to identify what's my present request in this very moment. This is one area that you can really use in your everyday life situation, in your everyday work. It's very, very important. The request is supposed to relate to the present moment. You may remember at the beginning, I didn't ask you to promise to me you will speak in first person singular. I asked you if you have the intention at this very moment. It's very, very important. Never ask the other person what not to do, but to ask what you would like them to do. My favorite example comes from the family as well. If I ask my beloved child, please don't hit with that piece of wood your younger sister, and the child starts to kick the younger sister, the child did what I asked for. He is not hitting the younger sister, started to kick. So it's very dangerous to say what I don't want. Please raise your hand if you would feel ease to tell to your child, my dear one, please discuss your conflict with your sister the way mommy and daddy are doing at dinner table regularly. Okay, maybe I didn't notice, but I didn't see any hands up. So the problem is we don't show an example how to manage conflicts. We don't show an example to follow for the younger generation. This was a little bit of marketing for improving your skills in nonviolent communication. Hopefully, you can be an example in this area for your children. So it's very, very important to make a request that relates to the present. It's very important to make a doable request, never to say what you don't want, but to say what you would like. And it's very, very important to differentiate if I want to check if the other person understood what I said, if the other person, how is the other person with my message, and if I want the other person to do something differently. I don't know if you have ever been recently in a McDonald's or any fast food place. Some people are nodding. Have you noticed the person who takes your order repeats back what they heard from you? Have you noticed it? They're supposed to do it all the time in my best knowledge. Sometimes they're missing, especially if I order only one or two things. But I don't know a more effective way how to express I understood your message than repeating it back. Plus, repeating back what you heard from me, it's one way to express respect as well. Once I wanted to say something really important to my mother, and I asked her if she could repeat back what she heard from me. And she looked at me with pain in her eyes, and she said, "Oh, my dear daughter, my brain is so sick, I have to repeat back what I was told as a child in the kindergarten." My God, I am using the most high-tech psychological communication skills with my mother, and the only thing she hears, she must be too old and she lost her brain. I still believe if you introduce this idea of repeating back, is one of the most effective, or in my best knowledge, it's the most effective way how to express clearly I understood. So you may want to use it in your everyday life if you would like to reassure the other person you understood the message, or you may ask for it, but this is a very tricky question. Be careful when you ask your boss, "Please, would you repeat back what you heard from me so I can check if you understood my precious message?" So this is not the way I suggest it to you. So I can check if the other person received it, understood, please repeat it back, or I can ask, "How are you with my message?" Especially when in Hungarian I say, sometimes people are telling me, "No, I don't like this American New Age stuff, I don't want to use it." And then I get really frustrated. Why is it American style to ask the other person, "How are you with my message?" Why aren't we more caring about the well-being of the other person? Why I don't care more about the emotional relationship with that situation of the other person? So this is my personal pathology. So you may want to check with your request if the message you sent really arrived. You may want to check how is it for the other person, or you simply just ask for something very specific. "My dear one, please, would you put your shoes to the shelf right now?" So these are the three different kinds of requests. And now we are finished with this part of guessing. We are finished with this part of naming my observation, which means what happened and I didn't like. Then we were naming my feelings, how do I feel? Then my need, why does it matter to me? And then the last step was the request, what do I want to happen? I'm still not recommending you to go back home or go back to your work and then to use it. Let's imagine this is Friday evening. I am sitting in my favorite bar, and then I realize my beer glass is empty, and I would tell to the waiter, "Sir or madam, I observed my glass is empty. I feel thirsty because I really wish for some service and care. How are you with the idea bringing me another beer?" You know, this may sound very stupid. They cannot think I am drunk because I couldn't say such a tricky sentence being drunk. But if I am in a real bar, or my favorite bar, I would go every Friday, and my eye is catching the eye of the waiter, and I just lift my empty glass, then maybe it's okay for that waiter to hear my request. Do you agree with me? Let's imagine I am your husband. And Friday evening or afternoon, I am on the sofa and watching my favorite program on television. And I realize my glass is empty. And I see my wife going to the kitchen anyway, and I try to lift my glass. I don't know, probably not even the first day of our honeymoon this would work. I tell you this example to make it very clear. I cannot tell you which words will help you to create the quality of connection you care for. But I can reassure you, if you separate your evaluation from the facts, if you can identify your feelings, if you can name why is that so important for you, and if you know what you would like the other person to do right now, then you are more likely to find the words that will help you to create the quality of connection. That's one of my biggest frustration when someone is identifying nonviolent communication with the 4 steps. The 4 steps are great tools. How to stretch my mind and to identify what do I want, why do I want, and how I want to happen. The next part of the process, I would like us to guess the possible feelings and needs of the other person. Please open your list of feelings and needs again, and please imagine I am your colleague who didn't submit that report on time. What might be my feelings in that very moment? Embarrassed? Thank you. What? Anxious? Frustrated? Overwhelmed, afraid, fearful. What might be my need in that very moment? Comfort? Support? Joyful is more like a feeling. Encouragement? I very much like. I wish for understanding whenever I am late. And I wish for support. Let's imagine I am your boss. And the nastiest sentence that comes to my mind is, you have no choice, you just have to do this. What might be my feelings when I say this? What? You quit. Okay, but before you quit, are you willing to guess my feelings when I tell this to you? Please choose something from the list. Sorry, I know the list by heart. Again? Lonely? Yes. Are you a boss? Worried, lonely, disappointed, helpless, hopeless. What might be my needs in that very moment when I tell you, you have no choice, you have to do this right now? Mutual respect. Anything? Cooperation? Honesty? Support? Dignity? So, can you promise to me, can you cultivate the intention for the next week, whenever your colleagues are telling you something you don't like, you take a little note somewhere, and in the evening, you spend 5 minutes going through your notes and guessing the possible feelings and needs, strictly using my list. My list is not because of I created. anyway, big part of it comes from Asha Rosenberg and from other thinkers. But it's very dangerous if I mix my feelings and needs with some criticism. So that's why I very much encourage you to use this list. Let's imagine I am your beloved 12-year-old. You asked me to put my shoes back to its place, and I ask you, who was your slave before I was born? What is your guess? What might be my feelings when I tell this to you? Strictly from the list. Above the red line, above the red line. Horrified? Embarrassed? Helpless? So I'm your child, I said this to you, and what might be my feelings when I tell this to you? Disappointed? Anxious? Disgusted? The feeling I would love to hear is lonely. Can you imagine the child who says this might be very lonely? I can never know for sure what is another person's feelings and needs. The only thing I can make is guesses. And when I behave as nasty as this, or I want to trust I behaved in the past, usually I was very lonely, desperate, helpless, hopeless. What might be my needs when I am asking you who was your slave before I was born? Below the red line, please choose some needs. Love in this family. Yes, I would love to receive some love and cooperation. Belonging, very much. I would love to receive care, tenderness. Oh, my heart is melting. Now we arrived to a very interesting part, because British scientists proved, even in communities where physical violence is part of their everyday reality, verbal violence is much more frequent. And I want to show you a very practical tool how to use nonviolent communication in order to transform verbal violence. And I kindly ask you to tell me some real criticism based on what you experienced from me so far. And if you tell me a criticism that's really touching my heart, means it's really about me, I'm willing to offer you one of my little chocolate, not me, but Bogi promised to give it to you. So again, if you say a criticism that really relates to me, not what someone told you in the morning and now you try to see how to react on it, but this might be the first and only time in your life when you receive chocolate for criticizing your teacher. You may say, this is manipulation. My definition of manipulation, when I do something purposefully hurting you, but I pretend or I wrap it in a nice wrapping so it seems like it helps you. I can reassure you that little chocolate will not make rich neither your dentist nor your dietitian, thank you. So, who is willing to criticize me? This might be, yes. Not easy to give the chocolate, but we will manage it. Okay. So can I just use a simpler version? My examples were stupid. To be more straight. Thank you. So, Bogi, we have a chocolate there. Usually I work with 3 criticisms, so I would love to hear 2 more. No more criticism? Come on. Then I would like all the people who I know. Yes, there is one.
Why green?
What?
Why green?
Why, really?
Why are you wearing green?
Oh, why am I wearing green?
So why
Thank
green?
you. 99 situation out of 10, I receive some criticism for my appearance. Here. So, thank you. Maybe your last chance to receive criticism for receive chocolate for criticizing your teacher. No more? Okay. Hey guys, who I know? Okay, it's not a push, but thank you.
You didn't let me express the feeling anger when I wanted to.
Oh.
It felt bad.
Oh. Thank you. I hope you will get your chocolate. I heard the criticism what I wanted. If you open this paper, at the top right corner, you see something in blue, four choices of hearing a negative message. I can hear this negative message with self-criticism, which makes me to victimize myself, to blame myself. That's a great way for shame and depression. Yes, I wasn't prepared enough, and I am too aggressive anyway, and I don't know how to really use this process, and I didn't dress properly, and I'm too aggressive, and I didn't let you to express yourself. The more self-criticism I have in my head, the deeper I go in anger, in shame, depression, victimizing myself, and guilt. I can guarantee for you, if you cultivate a lot of self-critical thoughts, it will influence your self-esteem. I can choose not to blame myself, but blame the others. It's a good game. That's when I get angry. So if I hear my example were stupid, why didn't you pay attention how much you can learn? You just pretend you are so professional. If your family life is not okay, then you cannot be successful on a professional life. I am dressed stupid, and you? I just told you to choose an example from the list. Why didn't you were willing to choose something from the list you cannot read? Having these critical thoughts is a great way toward anger. You know, if the person knows how to make me angry, they know how to lead me. So it's very, very important. From anger, I can destroy something. I haven't seen anyone creating something precious out of anger energy. So it's very, very dangerous to become angry. I can choose not to blame or criticize myself, not to criticize the other person, but to try to connect with my own feelings and needs. Means the third point, empathizing with my own feelings and needs. Hearing that my examples were stupid, I am disappointed and a little bit of insecure, and I wish for clarity what examples would support your learning the most. Hearing that my appearance is a little bit stupid, actually I am surprised because I thought my color is really matching the... Hearing that, I was aggressive with you because I didn't let you to choose anger. I am horrified because expressing love and care toward the people who give me the respect by listening to me is #1 priority. After I name my feelings and needs, I play this usually twice a week, and I started it 7 years ago. And still, after naming my feelings and needs, I sense the tension is leaving my body. Means when I was criticizing myself or excitedly criticized you in my head, my tension was growing. From the very moment I connect with my own heart, with my own feelings and needs, I start a little bit to relax. And after connecting with my own heart, I may guess, as the fourth point says, what might be going on in the other person's heart. In my thoughts, I can guess what might be the other person's possible feelings and needs. When you tell me my examples were stupid, are you disappointed because you would like to be understood? How much you would like to learn something that can be used in your work life? When I say this, I sense tension is leaving me further from my body, and I don't see the other person as an enemy anymore. I see a human being who would like to learn something meaningful and useful, and I can connect and resonate with it. When you say, my appearance is stupid, would you like to be understood? This doesn't participate in your idea of beauty. That's one of my favorite sentences, how to say it's ugly. So, again, it's a human being who has a different opinion and would like to be understood. When you say how aggressive I was because I didn't let you to choose anger, are you feeling fearful or frustrated because you would like to have an emotionally safe environment? Would you like to express love and care? If I wouldn't know him, I would never guess he feels fearful. I recommend you never guess a man loudly if he feels fear. I may do it silently, unless that man was speaking about his fear openly in that community regularly, more than once. But in my thought, when I guess the other person's possible feelings and needs, I stop seeing the other person as enemy. Not a person who wants to hurt me, but I can hear the pleas behind the message. And if you can practice this in your everyday life, you cannot be hurt anymore by words. You may say, how much I need to practice to be able to do it so fast? I don't know, a lot. But I have a good news. The criticism that hurts me the most, it doesn't come only once. Usually I heard it more than once, and probably each of us remembers some criticism I may heard 10 years ago or 20 years ago, many, many years ago, and it's still painful when it comes to my mind. If I can transform these criticism, that's already a huge help. It seems, in my experience, for me the most painful criticism was not what people told me, but was what I think you thought of me. And if I am, thank you, I have the sense of belonging. I'm not alone with this situation. So if I can transform what I think you think of me, then I am already in a great situation. Now, I would love you to do the following task. In the past, I said, no one is going to leave that door without me checking if they did what I asked or not. And the gentleman wrote me an email after, and he wrote, with that one sentence, you destroyed all the good things you said before. So definitely he heard it as an aggression. I changed. I used to say, of course you can leave this place anytime. I am planning to go around and to check if you read it, if you wrote it or not. Thanks God, there are too many people I cannot check. I can still stand at the main door and I can check it, but I'm not sure if I'm courageous enough. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, in order to live a happy and satisfying life, It's very important for each of us to have 3, 4 connections where we can experience mutual love. And I would love you to make a little list. Who are these 3, 4 most important people in your life? If you have a husband, wife, life partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever is like this, I would love you to choose them voluntarily. We can call this Eastern European volunteerism, and I bet this is not the first time when you experience it. So, if you have a partner, I would love you not leave this room without now writing down 10 specific things you regularly do in order to express love toward this person. I'm always kind is a little bit too general, but I bring palinka every morning in bed. Or I make coffee every morning. That's quite specific. Sometimes I get the question, what does it mean regularly? If you do it once a year, that's enough for me. You know, if I make your favorite cake for your birthday, that's already an expression of love. So I was told most of you have something to write, if not better thing than your mobile phone, and you write this for yourself. Minimum 10 specific things, what you do in order to express love toward this person, and this is supposed to be something easy to measure. Was I clear? If not, then please ask. Otherwise, I would like to have a 1-minute silence to give everyone time to write down. So my 1 minute is over. Is there anyone who is willing to read one thing from your list? Yes? Thank you. You give gifts, thank you. Buying vegetables. Cleaning the house. Tell every important news to her first. Thank you. Sorry? Anyone understood? Okay, saying I love you every day. Thank you. Having sex. Thank you. Yes? Creating special experiences. Thank you. Do you understand the expression of домашнее задание? Okay. So if you are too young to have the joy of learning Russian, even after 15 years of Russian, some of us still remember домашнее задание means homework. I would love you within 1 week to share this list with the person, and please ask, my dear one, I was told to choose one person who I want to experience love, and I voluntarily chose you. Which is true, because I'm a little bit control freak. I can check if you wrote down the 10 things, but I cannot check who was in your mind. So you had the freedom to choose, and please tell me, you tell to the person, how many of these things you understand as a manifestation of love, how many is neutral, and how many is bothering you. So, please ask, how many of the things I wrote down is the expression of love for you? How many is neutral? And how many is bothering you? Why is it important? One woman came back to the second program and she started with a big hug. Oh, dear Eva, thank you. You gave me 3 free hours per week. And I was, what? If I would know how to do it, I'd do it for myself. But she said, you know, I read my list to my husband, and he said 9 out of 10 was totally neutral to him, so I'm cleaning only when I feel like. Because I realized I live with a horrible guy who can live in any place because he doesn't care at all about cleanness of the house. So this was the only situation when I heard such feedback. Often people say, yes, my partner appreciated all or some of it. You know, there is no outside pressure these days that holds together our relationships. No pressure for our marriages, no pressure for our workplaces. If you know how to keep your most important relationships, you are more likely to have a satisfying life. And expressing love and respect is a great intention. But it's not enough to make an effort. It's equally important to do it in a way the other person receives it as love and respect. And I would love you to make this homework. I would like you to write down 2 more things to your list. One is there anything you miss from my list? So please ask the person if there is something they would appreciate to receive, and they never receive it, and somehow they didn't ask for it, or they may ask for it, but I didn't realize it. And the last but not least, darling, how are you with the idea of creating a similar list for me? I don't want you to ask this request to check, oh, if you do enough for this relationship or not. I would like you to do it in order you don't end up in a similar situation than one of my friends from whom I heard. I realized when my husband moved out of the house how much it meant he packed and unpacked the dishwasher every day. It's very easy to take for granted the good things I receive. And it's very, very sad when I realize only how much I received in a relationship, only when it's later. And to the lady who cares about professional situations, I am not courageous enough to recommend you to do the same thing with your boss, but I would love you to modify a little bit. It depends on your workplace if it fits to say how we express love toward each other. There are such work situations, but no matter what work situation you work, to say how we can express respect and care toward each other. So I don't dare to tell you to write another list. How do you express care and respect toward your boss and your colleagues? But it can be a nice Christmas conversation. And I have only almost 4 minutes left, and I promise to answer some questions. And if I receive the questions, then I stop. Yes. I ask my son to wear the jacket. Your stretch green dress is, oh, lovely. Yeah, thank you very much. What do you think about sarcasm? I love to use and I hate to receive. If the question was what to do with that person, it's a long story. Try to connect with that person on the heart level. It depends if your boss or your father or your wife or husband. So it depends on the relationship. I can't tell you more specific, but offering feedback in a non-critical way, how painful it is for you, and trying to guess what might the other person wants to express with that. Your list of emotion doesn't include anger. What's the reason? Hopefully by now I explained, because I believe I can be angry only when I think you did something wrong. How to make nonviolent communication a habit? I'm afraid to get back to criticism or judgment a week after this lecture. My only answer is come to my trainings, but have some reminder for yourself. If you know how to search on the internet, probably everyone knows it more than I do, you can find an enormous amount of material in English available for free. Find some friends you can speak about, or look at this lecture once a week. Help yourself. How to live in any kind of relationship, trying NVC, while the other person doesn't know NVC, without falling in the trap of advice or teacher position. To practice this process doesn't require the other person do it. Practice, 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 practice. That's the only answer I can answer. I have seen NEPPP claim they are NVCing, but they seem to be oppressing feelings, using a very patronizing tone. Do you see that happening? No, I try to avoid it happening, honestly, because I really invested almost all my life, the last 20 years, for improving my skills and to share these. And when this process is misused, it's just extremely painful to me. I cannot prevent others to do whatever they want to do. So I try to focus, how can I serve my community more? What can I do to spread what I believe in? And I'm quite busy with this. How do you express anger in a nonviolent way? I process it first. I identify my critical thoughts, then I transform them into my own feelings and needs. I guess the other person's feelings and needs, and by the time I am here, I always see more than one connection. And I have the sense, it's many different signs on these screens, I'm supposed to shut up. Thank you very, very much for your attention, and I hope you heard at least one thing. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.